three? Can I get three?
Call to order the work session for November 10th, 2020 for the city of Morrow. Good to see y'all here tonight. And we're going to go over the meeting agenda. So we have the approval of the October 27th regular minutes and the work session minutes from the city council. Are there any changes or any issues with either of those? Mr. Clark?
No changes.
Ms. Dean? Ms. Tran?
I'm sorry?
Ms. Knight?
No changes.
Okay. And then on the meeting agenda for November 10th, 2020, you've got that before you. We have approval for Georgia Power lighting agreement, installation of a light pole at Waterson Park, approval of 2014 SPLOST expenditure, $12,616 for repair of the fountain at Old Town Mall. A second reading of an ordinance to remove the streetlight fee and compactors for commercial. Pretty basic. Any questions on any of the above? Mr. Clark?
No questions.
Ms. Dean?
I do for the fountain,
Yeah.
the Old Town Morrow. That's for repairs.
Yes.
Has it already been checked out?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the original guy who did the install, Billy.
Yes, ma'am. Hobbs Fountain was the original installer. We had them to do the assessment to see what it would take to bring the fountain back online.
That's quite a bit.
I think the fountain was originally about 200 grand, so
Yeah.
in comparison, not bad.
Yeah, but I'd like to discuss something later, if you don't mind.
Okay. And then, so Ms. Knight, you good with the agenda?
Yes.
Ms. Tran?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with that. We'll go into the work session itself. Ms. Reddick, you want to introduce the event coordinator?
Well, since I just sent Val out of the room, yes, I will. So Karina, if you want to come up, I just want everybody to meet Karina Rivas Martinez, and she joins us. She is a longtime resident of Clayton County. Unfortunately not inside the city, but we'll work on it. She lives in Forest Park. She has an associate's degree in journalism from Georgia State. She is now studying the same at West Georgia. Of course, right now with the pandemic, she's not actually, in classes, but that's her trajectory. And she was working at UEI, right? Oh, I always get that wrong. It's the other one, the Interactive College of Technology. And so she will be working part-time, that's 32 hours, and she is here specifically to address our needs with event planning, marketing the events, possibly new event development, the newsletter, and Facebook. So we're ramping her up. She has done a great job coordinating tomorrow's Veterans Day event already, and of course Christmas in the Park is right around the corner, and then Lunar New Year just after that, because in Morrow really we have 8 signature events. So I told her and the mayor today, you're always just around the corner from having one and should be in the middle of planning the next 2, because there's never a break. So certainly let's welcome her with a round of applause, and anybody who has questions about events, as all City Morrow new emails, it's her first initial K and her last full name, which is Rivas. Sherry, I know you want to write this down. Martinez, Martinez. So if you want to email, have questions, hey, what's going on? Hey, can I volunteer? We love that one. Or how can I get involved? Businesses, the residents alike, this will be your new point of contact. So thank you, and then welcome, Karina.
Excellent. Slowly but surely building the bench. Conference Center, Mr. Warren.
Hola. How's everybody doing today? All right. So, I'll go over just a few things that we've done since I've last been here. It's been a little while. But from July 1st through November, through today, we have $47,264 in new business, and $5,740 of that has come from the newly opened Welcome Center. And just want to take a little point about that. People love the Welcome Center. It is a very popular event venue. It's booking like crazy. It's just enough space for what everybody needs. So congratulations to Morrow for that. For 2021, we do have on the books $140,916.21 in business for next year. For November through December of this year remaining, we do have $24,007.13 in business, and more coming in by the day. I'm starting to get a couple calls for Christmas parties. Unfortunately, about 2 or 3 repasses, so the books should look a little bit better. And I do want to point out something else that kind of affects the whole area. So we're getting a lot of business from venues that are just simply closed. Businesses that have closed their doors are no longer serving their clients for this year because of COVID-19. And since we do have the ability to socially distance, which a lot of people are asking for, a ton of people, we're getting a lot of that business as well, such as canceled weddings, et cetera, birthday parties, the whole lot. And we're talking up for another New Year's party. Also, Mayor, I think I mentioned this to you in passing, the Something Wicked Film Festival is the third largest horror film festival in the country. We secured it, and it's a 3-day event. It happens on Friday the 13th of next year in August. So we should all be there if you're brave enough, okay?
So Karina, we need to start working on that collateral to get that word out.
Yeah, for sure. One thing. As far as our COVID-19 response at the Morrow Center and the Welcome Center properties, it's been very good, to say the least. So people are definitely feeling safe. I definitely do follow-up questions online and in person concerning, did you feel safe? Were we socially distanced? Did we meet your goals? Did we meet your needs? Across the board, it's been 100% yes. There's been no complaints about our COVID-19 response as far as handling events. So that's a great job. Thank you to everyone who, I know it's been a lot, especially with Sylvia for sure. We do have a new social media marketing intern from Clayton State. Her name is Kayla Obiekwe. She's fantastic. She's a graduating senior finishing out her term. If you guys have been looking at our Facebook and our Instagram, I'm sure you've been seeing some more activity, things ramping up. That is mainly due to Ms. Kayla. And she's with us until December. We have another intern beginning in January, another guy named Jose Riviera, also from Clayton State University. So they're pumping out some good stuff over there, for sure. Let's see, the ads. Ads are running in El Nuevo and Trade Magazine currently. And of course, now we are looking at Creative Loafing and Atlanta Magazine for the next set of ad buys. And I did include some ad schedules, ad costs, and so we can develop an ad schedule based on those things there. But that's the overall things that are happening at the Morrow Center.
And I would like to briefly mention that, because for those who don't know, we have switched the Veterans Day event ceremony has been moved from the plaza here to the Morrow Center. We appreciate Warren being so available and getting that together for us. So it's at 11 o'clock tomorrow. It will begin at the Morrow Center because we expect inclement weather, although don't even tell me it doesn't rain tomorrow. I'm gonna pretend it does because we've moved it. So just so everybody knows, tomorrow at 11 at the Morrow Center.
Yeah. We are fully set up, ready to go.
A couple questions.
Yes, sir.
On the statement that you made earlier that your total income was 40-some thousand.
No, that's in we secured in new business.
What was your revenue so far?
For which term? So the $47,264 is what we secured in new business between July 1st and today. And then $5,740 of that has come from the Welcome Center in 13 cents. And for 2021, we have $140,916.21 on the books.
Correct. That's future revenue.
Yes, sir.
But the one I was talking, and the only reason I said it is in front of me, I've got a profit and loss statement that basically July 1st to November 3rd, and it's got our gross income, our total income at 17,237. Help me with the math.
That's something I could speak to Han and probably Angela about, but yes, our income is 47. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. So, yes, that's probably about, all right, minus a couple thousand, I'm sure, because I submitted a report today, this morning at 11 o'clock. So 47,264, that's a new business that we've secured for not just this time, but of course, next year as well. So that's money, that's cash in the bank. So as far as our profit and losses for the month itself, which is what this look.
Yeah, this one's not per month. This one right here is giving me the cumulative total for July, August, September, October. So that's a quarter.
Right. So that's referring to events that have happened in July, in August, in September, and October, and of course till now.
Okay, so let me say it.
Mhm.
So in the 4 months that have passed, they're saying that our revenue was 17. Are you telling me my revenue was 47?
No, payments made. So there's payments made, and then there's actually the actual events that happened during that time. So of course, we're definitely down as far as our profit and losses month by month, but I just wanted to give you guys the overall picture to show you guys what's actually occurring. If I'm making sense.
No.
So the 17,000 represents an event that actually happened, took place. That 47 is promised money for events that are booked.
Between now
And from the new business that we secured from
Okay, so
July.
it is payments in the bank,
Payments
but
in the
not
bank.
the things that have actually happened. So the this rental income is showing only the party that came and went. The revenue he's talking about, which the question should be is, why is it not captured on the profit and loss?
Because that revenue is never shown on the profit and losses until the event actually
Actually
happens.
happens.
So you guys don't get to see.
So what you're saying is you have deposits of 47.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is over and above this 17,000.
Right, but he's got deposits, which that
I'm
would be a
still
refundable
confused.
deposit if
Is that-
the event didn't happen, right?
Oh, right, we did have some refunds, absolutely.
So
I think it's a
we have-
terminology of how it's
we have
explained.
$47,000 deposit in our bank for the event, for coming events.
I'm sorry.
47,000 deposited in the bank for coming events.
Correct.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So how much is the revenue from that 40,000 deposit going to be?
How much is it?
So
That's where you
How
have
much
the
is, how
potential.
much do we require deposit? How many percent for the total cost for event?
Well, if I'm understanding the question and the relationship is, if they come to pass, that number will get larger because they're just putting deposits down.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. that's
If
no
they
problem.
get canceled, that number would shrink because we have to return some money.
Right.
But
So,
what you have is a deposit, and if what you told me earlier, you have 147,000 in potential bookings.
140, yeah.
So I have 140,000 in potential, of which I have 47,000 in deposits,
right.
which is a pretty healthy deposit. It's like a third, right?
Oh, 50%, yeah. 50%.
So that's good. All right, then back into a couple more questions.
Sure.
So we freed up some advertising revenue not too long ago, right? It hadn't had a lot of time to take traction. Of the revenue stream that you're seeing, the potential revenue, how much of that has been related to that, do you know?
At this point, zero. I didn't get any calls or emails about that, as far as the trade magazine or other level. The only call I did receive was from someone who saw an ad in El Nuevo, but it's from a radio advertiser trying to get us to advertise with them.
But they've only been advertising for 2
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
It's not very long.
No, not at all. No, we need that time just for saturation, absolutely.
Okay, and then what do you think led to the 147? What marketing led to that?
For next year, I mean, just, so some of it is moved events, some of it, a lot of it is, the unavailability for this year, so people are just, okay, we're gonna get next year, moving their weddings, and then of course, we're calling out to human resources, management companies, all kinds of different places, just to secure some business, of course. Getting the word out there. And then also I would say, SEO. So the number one response on our how did you hear about us or who referred you to us is always online. The second one is referrals. The first one is our robust SEO program, which we built about a year ago.
Okay. Any additional questions related to the profit and loss statement? Well, Ms. Dean?
No.
Ms. Knight?
No questions. Thank you, Warren.
Ms. Trent?
No question at this moment.
Okay, then I want to walk you through the next one, which is, so I see two sections in here where you talk about your local ad rates.
Are we looking at Atlanta and
Yes.
Creative Local? Okay. Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more of who the first one is. I know who Creative Loafing is, but who's the first one?
Sure. Atlanta Magazine is the quote unquote premier magazine of the tastemakers of Atlanta. It's that other crowd that kind of, little bourgeoisie, this for lack of better words, crowd. They focus on fashion, lifestyle. The fact that some of them is one sentence, I would say, is the premier lifestyle periodical of Atlanta.
I heard that one. Plus, it's pretty pricey per page to get.
Yes. These are better than Atlanta Business Chronicle, but this is a good fit for the Morrow Center brand.
Then Creative Loafing, I see a couple options in here.
Yes, my recommendation is monthly option C2 for the $18.50 per month investment with a 67.19% savings on that. Now, I do want to point out, Atlanta Magazine and Creative Loafing are both monthly periodicals. Creative Loafing used to be weekly. They now focus more on their digital distribution 3 times a month, and then their one monthly published periodical.
Okay, so you're saying there's obviously C1. What's the difference between C1 and C2?
As far as what you get, it's the dedicated e-blast, I believe, for the 22,000 opt-in subscribers. And then you're also gonna get an additional 5 things to do today. And then I believe that, and the first one is a half page full color, and the second one is full page full color.
All right, so I'm just seeing if I hear you right. So we're saying it has a digital print, an actual print, hard copy print, 60,000.
Distribution?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. They print once a month for a full page ad in that magazine. I'm seeing something here that says $36.80 value at $1,600, then I'm seeing something else that says $18.50 at a discount. What does that mean?
So they're talking about this, they're offering significant discounts, and that's what they're saying. So the value is one thing, but it's versus what you're gonna pay.
So the difference between the 1,600 and 1,800 is all the e-blasts that you were talking about?
Yeah, the e-blast and the half page and the full page, of course.
And then when it says total package 5,640, what do you mean by that?
So that's what the package would be valued at per month, and then what they're giving it to us would be $18.50 per month. So our investment would be $18.50 monthly versus $5,640 monthly.
Am I missing how many months we'd have to commit to get that 1850, right?
1 year.
Okay. So if we commit to 1 year, the value that should be 5,600 a month
Correct.
would only be 1,800 a month
Exactly.
if we commit to a year.
Right, so then I'm just doing quick math on the phone here, that tells me that on an annual basis, it's worth 23,200, give or take. Any thoughts? And normally, most of these magazines, I realize you see that a lot in Atlanta, right?
Mhm.
But as far as like local businesses, where do you find Creative Loafing and I know the magazine, so
Yeah.
I just said, where do you find it locally where somebody could pick that up? How do we know that's our target?
Well, Atlanta, creative loafing is really like that ear to the street, kind of beat on the street kind of vibe that they do. So people go to creative loafing for, I mean, when I used to, used to read it, and I still glance at it from time to time. I mean, it was about what was happening, the cool things to do in Atlanta. So if you were in creative loafing, basically, you're pretty cool, or something to do was cool. And I'm just trying to capitalize on that kind of genre.
I'm not buying it. It's a big investment. We need to really look into it a little bit more.
Sure.
It's like, we're booking $140,000 next year, and for this advertisement alone, it's worth over 15% of it. So something we need to,
So revisit a couple.
yeah, really,
And he's got a page in there that talks about his marketing mix, right?
Yes.
In terms of what you're seeing. The blue section. Ms. V, thoughts?
I'm not familiar with the magazine, so, at this point, we need all the help we can get. So if it's a viable magazine, we can at least try for, what is it, a subscription for a year?
Ms. Knight, any thoughts?
I'm familiar with both publications. The Atlanta magazine, to Warren's point, is a premier lifestyle style magazine. Atlanta magazine, they're the vehicle that runs the best of Atlanta when you see restaurants, top 10 or the best of the city, each year. So to me, that's the market that we want to kind of entree ourselves into, because the venue space can have and hold those types of events that are exclusive to, some of the upper echelon, lifestyle, what's cool, what's hip, what's hot, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think both of them would be great magazines to get into. It's just, I guess, a matter of understanding the financial commitment and really tracking the return. I think Atlanta magazine, would definitely put even the acknowledgement of the Morrow Center on a different level. It's that type of magazine. Like every city has their kind of lifestyle magazine, whether you go to Miami or you go to, any major city, quite honestly. And Atlanta magazine is that magazine.
And what's the recommended number of times do you think is necessary? Because if we're spending it on that one, depending on what you bought in terms of an ad, it could be, even if you did a half page, it's at 42. If you do it by 12, that's 33. That you can spend 40 grand.
Right. So I do want to caveat and just say that I told the rep, because they were a bit much to get in touch with, but I told the rep that I wanted to see what you guys thought about the generic rates first before they quoted me, before we worked on an actual quote, just to kind of see if you guys were, on board with that direction. Now, I also want to say that they also work with something with Georgia Tourism. So the Morrow Tourist Center, when it was the tourist center, apparently we had an account with them, and we did some advertising with them, which entitles us to other discounts, according to the rep named John or Josh or something like that. So we haven't discussed any of that. I thought I just wanted to get these rates in front of council to see what you guys thought about the direction of the magazine in general. So I think we can work a pretty good deal.
Mr. Trainer, any thoughts? Van?
No comment.
Is it possible for you to get your hands on one of these magazines?
Oh, that
To
magazine?
make sure that the city council has a hard copy in their hands?
I can give it
So
to you
you
by
have an
the
idea of what the true print looks like.
Sure.
Probably selling the barn
Is creative loafing still free?
Yeah, Atlanta Magazine, you'll see a lot of advertising from Phipps Plaza, Lennox Mall, a lot of Buckhead, boutique. Like I said, it's that premier lifestyle brand, that premier lifestyle look. I know they're doing their best of list. They're voting for those things now. So even the link that's in the packet, there's a link. You can see the quality of the covers. The Atlanta Magazine Media Kit. I don't know if you're looking on a tablet or anything like that. You can just click the link, but it gives you a little bit of insight as to how the magazine looks. Their Best of ATL edition. I think that comes out, towards the end of the year.
Okay. Let's get a copy and put them in the box. Let's start with that. Make sure we keep that. For those, at least look at it if you get a chance to kind of pull it together.
Did you want me to move forward with getting any additional quotes from the rec?
I'd like to see what our rates could be if somebody gave us a
Sure.
A deal. But then I know we did some additional advertising on Facebook. So, we were trying to figure out what, if any of the existing marketing that we've done has worked so far. I've seen some of the ads on Morrow Center on Facebook, things like that. So then that would mean that really hasn't really drawn us anything yet either.
Right, we haven't done a significant investment because it's the 480, so I kind of be smart with how I did the 480. So I had some scheduled to run through, actually this week, November 15th, until December 15th to promote, book now, dates are booking up, that kind of thing. So I really, because of just the trend of how things are going, watching the industry, how it's moving right now with COVID-19 and convention centers, I didn't think it was smart to just put that money into that right there. Not when we can secure dollars for 2021 instead of chancing it for 2020.
And then in terms of availability for the upcoming holidays, what's our availability looking like so far?
We have, Christmas is open. I'm in discussion now for New Year's party. It's actually a line dancing party from a client from Buckhead.
Cool.
Yeah, they want to do 200 people for a line dancing New Year's Eve celebration. And then on the 28th, I had
On actual New Year's Eve?
on actual New Year's Eve. And on the 28th of December, so right before that, I have an Indian culture. It's a ring ceremony. So tons of colors and cool stuff. So we're really excited. It's our first one, so we're really excited about that. But outside of that, we're good.
Warren, can I ask quickly, is it with the social media blast that you've been working, because I follow the Morrow Center on IG, and I see a lot more ads popping up. Is it possible to, I know there's a lot of static ads, is it possible to take some of the table before footage and create some dynamic social media to match up to whatever keywords you've got working with the search engine optimization things that have been working?
You're referring to like rich media?
Yeah, and just providing some, because you did a great job with some of the advertising prior to the event. Is there a way that you can kind of create some dynamic moving images to add to what you're increasing on, Facebook and IG?
Absolutely. We just need to carve out that time to generate that collateral and then work with Karina for sure, because she and I have spoken. We're going to be tapped in.
Yeah, because the videos were great.
Thank you so much.
We'll do a little more research.
Yes.
And just get what you can. Of the bookings that we have, is it pretty much scattered out through next year? Is there a particular area that we're hitting?
Yes. March, April, May look fantastic.
Spring.
Yeah, spring is, between like our 2-week rentals with Cyber, yeah, those look great. I am running out of Saturdays for 2021 because of all the shifts. And so what happened was we shifted and then people started calling back realizing that, okay, you guys are running out of dates. Wedding clients started booking and then the rest of it happened. So that's how it happened. I know stuff like, there's what's the wedding in the year? Jonesboro, on the lake.
Christine
Chapel,
Chapel.
yes. So I know, like I spoke to them, they're out of Saturdays until 2022 because of all the shifts. Now their Sundays and Fridays on so great, but all the Saturdays. So we're in the same boat. We have about, I think, 14 or 15 Saturdays left for the entire year. So, which is great because then it'll shift over to Friday night business, Sunday business, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll see a natural shift.
Well, we're not ready for this yet, but just as you bear in mind, if we got into the dark space next door, you know, obviously it's more of an exhibit space versus the type of space that you have.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
As far as,
Just, obviously, we're not ready, but in the event, you know, sometimes you want to start your marketing before you actually have it, you know.
yeah, I think it's super smart and I would love it. I think it's a great idea. I think that getting that space ready so that, you know, of course, when people are more comfortable with convening again, that we can sell those large spaces. You know, some of these events I've been saying can get very creative. If we just get creative with our decor, we don't need to do a crazy interior. You know, I think that having it ready is beyond smart.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, information technology, I believe, Vaughn, you're gonna make that presentation? Is that correct?
Yes.
Good evening. Actually, we to protect our data, we currently have a server back in the public works that back up all the admin computer, and also the server to protect our data. Example like we need it's time for renewal, which is the 5 years. The quote I provide there is what 16.
16,741.
Yes, ma'am. And that was for 5 years quote. And the reason I want to bring this up because at beginning of this December, the our server is run out of the update or energizer, what they call it, because we want to protect our data. Because lately, for the last couple of years, you guys probably heard that the ransomware from city of Atlanta that got hit last year, and to the state trooper also got hit. It took them like almost 5 months to recover the data. Also cost them like $millions to rebuild the infrastructure. And then we don't want to run into that scenario where we got a ransomware and we lost all the data or pay the hijacker to get the data back.
If I'm seeing this right, when it says quantity times 60, is that just saying we've got 60 workstations?
That's 60 months on the quote.
Oh, so it's a 5-year contract?
Yes.
This is not actually for the server itself, though?
No, it's also protect all the data like silver computer, the city clerks and my public work, all the admin computer, and also the server.
But what about police department? Don't you guys do backup too?
Yes, sir, I do hope so.
Yeah, the police department, we only the admin computer only, but the people on the road, their data is just like a worksheet. I mean, it's nothing tied to this network at all. So their file is very minimal. It is not reusable. So, and most of the form that the police created it, that they have on the admin computer. I mean, if let's say something wrong with one of the computer there, we can just pull the original format out and they can reuse it.
But when you say admin, does that include finance? Does that
Yes,
include
finance, fire, PD, and all the server that throughout the city,
Court?
public works, court.
Are you happy with that, Essie?
Yes, sir.
And then, like I said, including, we do have server that housing, remember 10, 15 years ago, we scan all those map of the city plan. Yeah, that is a big chunk of data there. I mean, we need to protect.
I agree.
Yes.
Any questions?
No question.
Ms. Dean? Ms. Knight?
None at this time, thank you.
Ms. Tran?
No question.
City manager, you want that on the agenda the next?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, we'll be asking for this to be on the agenda at the next meeting.
And then there's one right behind it that is related to the telephones.
That's the VoIP switch server, which is provide all the phone here to be online. The switch is almost 8 years old now. So and that's just cover the warranty. And let's say something happened, they can just come out and replace the switch immediately to bring us back up online. We provide the service for all the phone that we have, including the one that we use up there right now.
Tell me, what does this mean down here where it says reinstatement fee? What does that mean?
Well, back in August, I brought this up, but it never go through. And then
So you're saying that's my fault?
because it expired, so that's why it expired back in August, late August I think, and then so I had to contact the company back, and then they say that because I provide you a 30 days to renew, but I would never get through with the approval. So then that's why I reached them back. They say if you want to reinstate the contract, then you have to pay for that reinstate fee.
But this was our question, my question is, that if we choose not to reinstate, what?
Well, if we choose not to go with this, let's say example one day, our switches fail, it may cost us more money to get the switch and the people to come out here to work on it to replace the part and reconfigure.
So basically, we're talking about our phone system.
Yes.
For those of you who know voice over internet protocol, that's basically saying you can plug these things in just about anywhere, right? So it's over the internet, right?
Technically, because our system is kind of PRI, it's not like 100% of you plug into the cloud base somewhere. We don't have a subscription because when you mention about VoIP, you plug in the internet, there should be like a cloud somewhere, but here we don't have a cloud somewhere. Everything is housing in server in-house.
Okay.
So we don't pay for subscription of the cloud service. We have our server here with the 65 licensing for our phone to be online. And those are the hardware behind the mainframe to power this. And also the server that tie into the other switches that to make we have VoIP.
So, as I understand it, if the switch never fails, this is not something you need.
Yes.
And if the switch fails,
Yes.
they can still come out and fix it, because it's not our network, these are the phones.
Yes,
right?
because we have 5 switches here, four in the main server room, and then 1 over PD.
Right, so our phone system's 8 years old,
Yes.
still fairly current. It's the phone system for PD and on this side, right?
Yes.
And do we pay an additional service somewhere for any of that?
We pay to voice Windstream to power the PRI service. I don't have the number on top of my head.
So we pay that annually?
It's like a monthly fee. It's like the DID, the number for to go in and out.
It sounds to me like if it doesn't work, nobody's gonna be able to answer the phone, right?
Until they come out and service it, which V is saying may be more expensive than this, because this is only for 1 year, right?
Yes.
Any questions? Mr. Kwok?
No question.
Ms. Dean?
No questions.
Ms. Knight?
No questions.
Ms. Tran?
No question.
Any objection to having that on the agenda for the next council meeting? All right. Thanks, sir.
No.
Next one, flood damage and post-construction stormwater management ordinance. It sounds like the water authority's up to something.
Yep. They are basically assessing some of the stormwater areas, and they're trying to formulate where they need to make some modifications and some changes. After the big storm we recently had, we had some areas that started to fail. They now realize that they need to do a complete assessment, so they're assessing everything in great detail. Then they're going to come back and provide us with some additional data that will support what they think needs to be made. From what I gather, it's no expense at all to the city. It's just something that they're having to do.
And the ordinance would give them that authority.
That is correct. The ordinance would give them authority to do that.
That's 16 pages. So we know we have a stormwater utility fee, right? So there's a lot of things that are on them anyway, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you
And,
accept-
well, and if I may, excuse me, Mayor, but would the council like to meet Kevin Osby, who manages a lot of these issues with us, and just because so many of the council don't know him. So we could certainly have him at the next meeting just to introduce him. And then if they have specific questions, he'd be more.
I think it would be good for a lot of reasons. The stormwater management, fee that everybody pays, the house, the buildings and things like that, to know what it is they cover and don't cover. So an example is that let's say you have a storm drain on your commercial property. How much of that is yours? How much of that is somebody else's holding ponds? We see those around here a pretty good bit. And then they could tell us in a little more detail as to how this correlates to what we currently are doing now. Because you see a lot of things in here like page 12, change zoning administrator to something else. That's just a designee. But there's some other things in here that might be important. And that would be worth, that'd be worth at least a half an inch of that. What do you think?
I will reach out to him first thing tomorrow.
Well, first thing Thursday, he won't be around.
I'll be around tomorrow.
Well, he won't, but yeah, for the next meeting.
For the next meeting, and just asking if he will come in and talk in great detail about the ordinance and the changes and things that.
Well, and even more about the ordinance, the council just may want to learn, as the mayor was saying, in general about this, what is the stormwater management and how does it impact the resident and what they see on their bill?
Got it.
Well, plus, we can do the first reading and a public hearing
Sure.
at the same time. That way everybody gets a chance to kind of talk.
That's-
We're not wasting any real time.
Is that good, Jen? First reading,
I
public
have
hearing?
a question
Sure.
before we go to, page 16, section 8-4-19, it says maintenance requirement, has to do with the property owner. Now, is this commercial property or residential as well? Regarding, property owners shall be responsible for continuing maintenance as needed within the altered space or relocation portion of a floodplain on property. So is this?
When you do a floodplain, that's where you're gonna get into that FEMA map. And let's just grab the creek down here. So say a portion of that creek is yours, because that's not an individual property. Most of the time, you're not building in the 500-year floodplain for sure, right? Because that's.
Yeah,
usually
because
how-
they include
and then-
residential property.
Yeah, then the other one, well, it doesn't define it. It's basically saying floodplain, let's say you go into your backyard and start filling it in. There's a flood model that they actually use. In other words, the water rises, you're filling in an area on your property. And they're sitting over there going, there's certain things you can and cannot do, even if it's your property, to be able to make that work.
So
They'll be able to
technically, it
answer
could be
that
both.
better.
It could be both.
Right.
And the reason I asked is Central Park Loop created a floodplain in my yard.
And what's amazing,
I'm not 100% sure a flood plain, they may have created a flood problem or a drainage problem.
Yes.
But if that detention pond behind them is actually doing what it's supposed to
The
do.
ditch, it's the ditch that they created, it has filled in with silt.
Yep.
And so the water.
And your stormwater management fee
Yeah,
covers
so-
that.
That
So
is
they're
correct.
supposed to maintain that.
that is correct.
So technically, she has a problem, that's Billy's fault.
I guess I'm gonna have to take it. I'll be over and take a look at it as quickly as possible. But I did,
And we send a bill to the water authority.
and we sent the bill to the water authority. I did find out some really interesting stuff with the last major rain that we had. And so Kevin and I met at site, and specifically Meadowbrook by the park. that is a choke point that I've got a lot of concerns with, because as the water hits that choke point, and depending on how much water is coming off I-75 into the detention basin, it's really doing some damage to that area. Well, Kevin and I have agreed that that's a prime example of where we need to make a modification to that drain pipe where it goes underneath Meadowbrook, because it's creating a bottleneck. Now, here's the sad part. In discussing a lot of this, he's saying, well, if I make a modification here, it's going to create another problem elsewhere down the stream. So we have to be very delicate in looking at what we can do to make the modification. Nevertheless, we're entering into some really good, hard, fast conversations on making some improvements and doing some things a little bit different. And then we'll get heavily involved into the preventive maintenance portion of it. What do we need to do on our end? How does it affect the residents? What are some of the things they need to be doing, and so on and so forth. But we are having a conversation.
I think that's a good idea to have him come, because that way people that are having issues, you know, like Huey, about the church there and the pond and all of that, that's,
See, that one's a private pond.
yeah, but the street is being, you know, sometimes.
And that's drainage.
Mhm.
Your floodplain, at least on Meadowbrook, we own a chunk of that, 30 acres in there. But on the other side, Pinecrest, there's a pretty significant issue there before it gets down to that lake, so that can be problematic.
And
But anyway, let's bring it up, because I think it'll be a really good conversation. Some of these things are not being maintained, but that's not so floodplain so much as a stormwater issue.
And I think a lot of it, not to cut you short, is debris. You see a lot of debris that comes off I-75 and ends up in some of the retention basins, and then once the water hits it, it starts flowing. Next thing you know, you've got a bottleneck where you've got a lot of debris that's causing a lot of problems. But they are well aware of that, and they are doing something. They are looking at it closely and coming up with a game plan to remedy the concerns that we have.
Any questions? Okay. Ms. Dean? Ms. Knight?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Tran?
No question.
Perfect. All right, we'll have them here next week. Clayton County Elections Management Agreement. You want to speak to that? Somebody can speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So, we actually signed a contract, we actually have a contract with Clayton County Election and Registration Office, which is expiring on December 31st of this year. We have been trying to get in contact with Clayton County, but of course with all the elections going on, we anticipate receiving a sample contract to renew, so that way our city elections are held by the county. We started doing this a number of years ago because at one point we spent more with city staff and legal fees than what the county was charging us for elections. So if that's something, if you all would like to renew that contract, we would like to be able to present that to you all.
Yeah.
for renewal.
Let's at least look at it, see what's got. We'd rather be professionally done than not.
Yeah, and they have all the staff, they have people, even if we did, we would have to find someone and train them. It's very difficult where they are constantly doing elections. They have people who are experienced and already on staff.
I mean, this is what they do for a living, and
That's exactly what they
we
do.
just have to sort of learn it again every couple of years, so.
And just to let you all know, the way it typically works is they also do an election of another city at the same time, which offers, let's say for the previous year, they did Jonesboro, the year before that they did Riverdale. So some of our residents could go over there to vote, you know, if they work in the area, or they can go down to the county to vote. So it gives multiple options instead of having everybody have to come here, especially during the weekday. But mayor and council will discuss what their requested dates are, like if they want to be Saturday voting, if they want certain dates to open up later, open up earlier, and then we just have to make sure that if there is another city that the county is hosting their election, that we all agree on the times.
Okay, not a problem. I'm looking at, the retreat we had on the seventh? Was there any reason why we didn't have the agenda? We might have to approve it, or is there just prior?
The minutes,
Yeah.
she did not provide the minutes in time. I did send them to you,
Okay,
today.
no problem. We don't adopt them at the next meeting, I just wanted to see what it was. Okay. Any questions related to the management agreement or potential management agreement with Clayton County Elections? Mr. Kwong?
No question.
Ms. Neal?
No question.
Ms. Tran?
No question.
Ms. Knight?
No question.
Professional translators. I'm seeing something here from Language Solutions. Anyone want to?
And so we had talked at the last meeting about, you know, the potential for starting to hire some professional translators. So you have 3 companies that have touched base with us that we, well, I don't even say they touched base with us, Jasmine reached out to them. 2 can show they're certified. 1 seems more like a student initiative. So, you know, just, and then I think maybe Jasmine printed off some additional sheets for you to see, some samples of their work. So we would, you know, y'all sort of can discuss it, call me about it, call Jasmine about it, talk amongst yourselves. But I don't want to put that on the agenda until, you know, sort of we've heard some feedback on how you feel about moving forward with it.
What's the difference between the different sections? It looks like it's all priced about the same, right?
So I provided each company 3 samples of work. 2 were flyers, and 1 was the residential sanitation letter from the transition. And the difference in pricing is there's 1 price for if just translating the document, 1 price for Spanish, 1 price for Vietnamese, and then if it is a flyer, then there's a cost also for if they're actually changing the image, correct. So we provide them with a file.
But once they've spelled it out for us, we ought to be able to do that ourselves, right?
Potentially, but the problem that we were having in-house is some of the font did not translate over properly. So it would be missing an accent mark, and the person who's doing it may not speak the language, doesn't realize that it's missing until we then send it to someone else to correct it. Then it has to go back.
Yeah, because like with the newsletter, you know, you copy and paste it in the translated format. Only then does the computer tell you that the font does not translate, can't translate in that font. But to Jasmine's point, that's obvious because all the letters turn into squares. But there are some fonts that mostly translate, but may miss some markings. And unless you're literally looking at it letter by letter, I don't know that, I mean, you can't tell which is what's missing.
And help me out with this one, huh? We're gonna translate to English too? Is that what I'm seeing?
No, what was that? Why? Because I asked that too. Why do we have an English to
No,
English?
that was the
Proofreading.
document that we provided. It was titled Final Residential Transition Letter English. So they're translating it to Spanish and Vietnamese, the price is underneath. That was the file name that they received.
Yeah, so no, we're not translating it from English to English.
Thank goodness.
It ain't got that bad yet.
But then if I'm looking at that final number, I'm really just not leaving that part in there, right? Aren't I just grabbing like the 48, the 72? Am I grabbing something I'm not seeing?
They're different documents. Which one are you looking at specifically?
Let's just grab the one that's the most expensive so we can sit there and say,
So if they, and I believe this is where, Jasmine, we talked about it, like English to English, if they proofread our English. Wasn't
No,
that-
so the English to English is, they just put that, but it's actually because this document had images on it. Remember on the sanitation letter, it had images where it had the size of the gallons of the trash can, and then there was some other images on there. So the DTP is the actual, the hourly amount that they charge for fixing the images within a document. So they anticipated it to be they do a minimum of 1 hour. And that was the cost for any images, even if it's an image on a document, a Word document, or if it was images on a flyer. And on that residential document that I provided, we had images within the flyer that had wording as well as a picture. So the wording underneath the picture that was all together, that's what the charge is for.
But, you know, we
So
would
let's
certainly
use this,
clarify that.
the newsletter that just went out.
Mhm.
Okay. If we can get somebody to tell us what they would have translated that newsletter from English to Vietnamese, English to Spanish, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Because we all know what, how we look.
And I can send them the original document so they don't, because if it's PDF, then they'll need to be able to see the word count per article, right?
Yes, yes.
So I'll send them the Illustrator file, the InDesign file.
Yes, that's exactly what they need.
That's more than likely what we're gonna have. And then I got a feeling somewhere in here, the answer is gonna be somewhere in between, right? In other words, some documents will just run out there, and then some of them we'll probably risk it. You know, if we're just sending something out on a postcard, we ought to be fairly close, right?
Yeah, and these are not contracts, which means we can send them to both companies, all three companies, and they can send us back an invoice or a time frame of how long it will take to process.
Yeah.
And we can choose at that
Yeah,
point.
thanks for saying that. So, that's right. We are not, I'm glad you said that, Jasmine. We are not asking to sign a contract.
I understand.
Yeah, we're asking for maybe to identify who you're comfortable with, or to Jasmine's point, hey, this is what we need translated, let us know how much it's gonna cost, but there's gonna be also that level of confidence, right, that they're the right company. And so that's really sort of what so, and technically, unless you wanna vote on the right company, if y'all can come to a consensus, online, offline, next meeting, this meeting, we just need to know who you favor based on the translations that you're reading. And
Let's take the newsletter, the latest one, see what they would charge us, because that way we have an idea of what it is. And then we've got a better way, because if I'm reading this right here and I'm seeing the numbers, I don't really know what they're translating. And if somebody said, okay, one page here is $70, for me, that's easy, no problem. Then another page is $326, and you're going, wow.
Well, I can tell you the residential sanitation letter was 4 pages. So, Mayor Pro Tem Tran and I broke it down, so it was about $40 a page for the company that didn't have the per word. The first company, which is the LATN, they actually charge per word. It's not really by page. The second company, the ASTA, they charge, the reason they don't actually put per word is because if you send 4 documents in this month, the amount that they charge you is gonna be cheaper than if you send 2 documents next month, because of the number that you're translating, and they're billing you on a monthly basis. It automatically shifts the charge.
I still would like to know at least something that we print, and then what's that ballpark number? Because that was a little more important to us, and then I think we got an idea as to whether that's a fair price or not.
Mr. Mayor, we look at that meeting version tonight and he decides what to spend.
Well, did they ever tell you what was so funny on the last one?
letter,
Did they ever tell you what was so funny on the last one? No? You didn't tell me what was funny?
the,
I'm listening to
Well,
Councilwoman Tran.
the sample letter, 4 pages. So first company is about double in the price to translate the Vietnamese to Vietnamese versus the second one. But the second one doesn't give us the full how do they bill us. So they say this the price estimated for the job that we forward to them, but later on they can charge us whatever or however they would want to charge us. There are no methodology of how the cost of the CV is calculated. So I would say just get a little bit, look out for our options to see where can we get a reliable service and what the reasonable price and the way the charge is calculated is reasonable.
And obviously the real reason for this is we obviously have some people here who speak, read, and write all of the languages that we're talking about. But in some of those translations, let's just say we might have missed, okay? And if me and you were reading it in the English version and they were talking about us specifically, might not have been as impressed as you know, if it's in a different language, you kind of overlook it. But if it's in your language, it wasn't quite so funny. So we want to be a little more accurate. We're a professional company. Let's do it. If it's going to be a small amount of money, absolutely. But we're going to have some tight controls on this. We don't want to, you know, have everything that's out there just so that it's an easy way for somebody else to do our work for us. But anyway, so we just have some more homework. That being said, we'll stop the work session and go into, you need a little break?
Yes.
Real quick, take a couple minutes and we'll start the work session. Just continuing. Most of that's related to future events, probably the Halloween day, the council. We've got Christmas in the park. You see your the flyer that you just saw here. There you go. Looks like it's going to be December 5th.
From 4 to 7.
4 to 7.
December 5th, 4 to 7.
So that's coming out. We look forward to that. And we've got Juneteenth planned, Freedom Fest is being planned.
And Lunar New Year. So.
And Billy, while you got the floor, you want to bring us up on some updates and some different things that are happening?
Yes, sir. Be my pleasure. I want to talk a little bit about Continental and Patricia Drive, repaving and looking at speed platforms. What we found was when we started assessing the conditions of the roads, we found that Continental and Patricia Drive haven't been repaved since 1988. They are on the list to be repaved this upcoming year. And in looking at speed tables, I've been assessing what we have here at City Hall as a possibility and looking at some other speed tables. And what I'd like to do is to pull together something that speaks to, here's here's some examples of speed tables, and let mayor and council determine what style of speed table you would like to put in a residential neighborhood to kind of calm some of the traffic as it drives through the neighborhoods.
And we just want to make sure if we're going to repave the street, we repave the street before we put something down and then taking it back up. What's the average cost to repave those?
It just depends on the total footage of the street itself. It's roughly about, that's a good question. It varies because of the cost of the asphalt. I can pull together some information and come back at the next council meeting and be able to speak more intelligently with regards to what it could potentially cost based on the total distance of road at our next meeting.
And let's make sure we do the whole subdivision that hasn't been done. So Continental, you get, Pinnell, and I don't know when Oak Ridge was done, if it was done recently.
Okay.
And then I noticed in one of the pieces of paper that was sent out was like the road schedule in terms of what year was out there.
Yes, sir. As far as the schedule for the upcoming years, basically what I did was, with the assistance of staff, got some of the history of the roads that have been paved, roads that haven't been paved. Then we actually went out and did a physical review of the roads to kind of calculate which roads needed to go first, or in other words, we categorized the roads into 3 categories: P1s, 2, and 3. P1s are roads that need to be addressed immediately because of the condition and the age of the roads. P2, anywhere from 2 to 3 years left on the road, and then P3 is anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7 years left, possibly on the road. We've got a lot of roads that need a lot of work. I took a look and provided the city manager with a list and said, here's what I think we need to do first. I think on my list there were at least 5 or 6 roads, keeping in mind that if there were intersecting roads in a neighborhood, we wanted to capture all that. And then secondly, I said, okay, where are some of the roads that we could go back and assess and put a coating over it and do a restripe? So I'm getting into that now. As part of that also, the red entry points into the subdivisions, I've already got some quotes. One quote on that, that's a pretty good quote. I want to kind of vet down on it a little bit more, but hopefully within the next 10, maybe 15 days, I want to at least start introducing some information to the city manager that says, here's the first one I'd like to do, and then from there, kind of strategically go through the city and address that. One of the concerns that I have is the asphalt at some of the entries and some of the roads it's cracked pretty bad. So I've reached out to a contractor that we've used before to kind of fill cracks and do some resurfacing or recoating of the streets. They've given us a very good price. They're going to give me some additional pricing for that, and I want to look at some of the streets and get them recoated, cracks filled, and restriped. And then there's some roads that we can just restripe ourselves. Looking at a piece of equipment that's about $2,400. It's a 5-gallon striping machine that runs by gasoline that will allow us to kind of shut down a location, go in and identify yellow lines and white lines that need to be repainted on the streets and start working on that also.
Matt, I have a question. When
Yes,
you
ma'am.
say subdivision, entry pavers, is that, you're talking about the little red portion of it?
Yes, ma'am. So,
Wasn't that done a couple of years ago?
Yeah, we repainted them basically, except for I think 2 were missed. Navajo was one of them. But we didn't repair any cracks, or we just literally repainted it
and
to spruce it up a little bit.
yeah, and so my biggest concern right now is, I'll use an example right across from Navajo. There's one of the areas that have been repainted, and if you hit that with water, it's pretty slippery. So one of the things that I wanted the contractor to do is provide me with some type of material to be put into the paint so that on a wet day, on a snowy day, and you're driving on that, it's not as slippery as it is right now. So I've got some pretty good pricing thus far. I want to try to get one more estimate so that I can provide to the city manager. And then I'd like to start this within the next max 10 to 15 days.
So do you
Get started.
have a timeline on how long it lasts?
Well-
From, once they do it, can we get,
It could last. One of the things that I found in the conversation that I had with Sherwin Williams, who actually provides the paint that would be used for that project, it all depends on how well the contractor puts the coats down. That's going to determine the overall lifespan. So that's another conversation that I've had with contractors as part of the scope is I want to be very specific with regards to the chemical used to fill the cracks and the chemical used to put in the paint so that we could make it more slip resistant than what it is right now. And then once I get that completed, I'm just going to shoot something to the city manager that says, here's my recommendation, and move forward and start getting this done as quickly as possible.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I want to skip down to the Lake Harbor sidewalks, just to kind of recap what the next step is. I visited with the city manager. I'm going to go out and I've got all the plats that are actually in question and start entering into some conversations with the homeowners to let them know where we're at specifically with regards to moving on this project.
We were actually supposed to start that this week, but with the sanitation, we got a little.
We got a little behind, so that's P1 for me. Come tomorrow, I'll dig down and create the plan, and then I'll have a conversation with the city manager, and we're going to move forward on having those conversations. The Jester Creek project, it's moving along pretty good. They haven't been out the last few days. They did run into a small snag with the soil. One of the concerns was the heavy equipment was actually sinking down into some of the soil along the path due to moisture. I'm working with Mark Whitley as well as Triscape and Pond on a solution so that we can continue to move forward on that. But as of right now, everything seems to be moving pretty decently. The Morrow Bridge, rail and island. It's moving, but it's not moving quick enough for me. I've reached out to CNC Lovejoy, had a conversation with them to provide cost proposal, but I think I need to get a secondary company out to give me some more feedback so that I can come to the table and have a discussion with the city manager and see if we can close the gap on this one. It's clear to me after driving down that road today, and the cars barreling down that road at 65 miles per hour, that we need to create some type of, we need to create something that's gonna slow folks down, because right now, that's a very scary situation. Even with us trying to do a little preventive maintenance in the medium, the cars still don't slow down. Flashing lights are going, they still don't slow down. So I think the last conversation I had with Clayton County traffic, they said that we could, if worst came to worst, at the crosswalk, crossing over into Jester from the opposite side of the road, they said it would be a reasonable decision if we decide to put a speed table there to kind of slow things down. It's not one that's going to be where you completely slow down to a crawl. It's a speed table that will actually get people's attention, but the fear there again is the rail and the creek. Here recently, when I first got here, the last accident that occurred there, a truck flew across the creek, and he was very fortunate that he didn't go into the creek. And my biggest concern is it's just a matter of time before someone hits the rail and actually ends up in the creek. And it's only on one side of the road, so we're looking at adding some additional mediums, shrinking down the size of the medium, reestablishing the rails, making some minor repairs to the bridge. They're not structural to the point where we need to get GDOT involved and kind of keeping things moving in the right direction. The city signs on I-75. I've got one solid quote from a company. The prices are pretty reasonable. I am now entering into the second portion, which is having 2 additional companies to provide me cost based on the scope of services that I've created. I've given them till Friday this week to get me something back. Once I get that back, I'll present what I've come up with to the city manager, and we'll have some additional discussions, and then we'll bring forth mayor and council and have some additional discussions. It's some pretty unique, I've got a pretty, well, what we've come up with, I think, is going to be very eye-appealing to people coming off I-75, and it's going to also assist us with helping some of the smaller businesses with some of the advertisement, because I'm recommending and have presented before the city manager some digital boards to be attached to the signs that will speak volumes for us. I think back when the first signs were put out, there were markers that had arrows going in different directions, and that worked during that era. I think looking at how we can make Morrow even more, people can actually really see what's going on in Morrow, is if we put digital signs up and we do advertisement on those signs, and there's a clear picture with the city's logo that says, "Hey, welcome to Morrow," and I think that's going to be, pretty exciting for us. Street light updates. You'll appreciate this one. Had a conversation with George Powell. More specifically, the conversation was around Shirley Drive and Murphy Drive. Looks like Georgia Power did send a crew out, and they've been assessing their lights, and what they've found is they've got some underground cabling that actually attaches to the lights that have failed on Shirley Drive and on Murphy Drive. So they're sending a team out to do an assessment to see what it's going to take to bring them back online. Now, my concern is I've traveled the city and noted other green pole lights that are not operational, and it's not 1 or 2, it's 6 or 7, 8 or 9. And so I reached back out to Georgia Power and said, when you come out to look at these lights, I want to also take a look at other lights throughout the city where we're having the same problem. So I think we'll probably get some good responses back to get some of these lights back on, because that's critical.
And when are they gonna start that list we approved last meeting? I meant to ask you this.
I actually sent an email out Monday, and I'm awaiting a response back from Ann Wilson. I'll follow up with her.
Have we gotten the executed contract back, Jasmine? Okay.
Yeah, I got all the executed contracts back to her, early or late last week, so we're in good there. I just need to get a
Because
time.
it just shouldn't be the end of November and
Oh,
no
no.
new lights are up yet.
No,
Because that's not a wiring issue. I understand what you're saying is different, but.
yeah. The new lights are mostly just, actually attaching the light to the pole.
To the existing
And then
pole.
attaching to the existing wiring. So that should be fairly quick, but I'll reach back out to Ann and have her give me the timeline, per location throughout the city, so that we'll have a better understanding of that. Any additional questions?
No, I love lights. On the, just moving on to the next one, on that pedestrian path connection that we were talking about over there on Westwood Way. I guess that's not construction documents, is that what
Right,
you're
no,
telling me today?
but Mark Whitley is working on producing construction.
Got a timeline on that?
No, sir, but, give me a few days and I'll get you something as quickly as possible. I'll reach back out to Mark and have a conversation.
And then vegetative management, the stuff on I-75, open up the view corridor.
Working with GDOT.
Well, so, we reached out to Representative Blanton. He made a call to GDOT on our behalf to Kathy Zahul, who is a lady mayor, if you remember that we met out there that day. So they have a software system, GPass, that, we're supposed to be communicating with it, and Billy was having some trouble, but she called me, and you and I just need to sit down and maybe Thursday, and let's get in there and see if we can get that information in there, because it's the problem, if there's a problem, it's our end not having the information on GPass. And so we gotta work to overcome that.
Okay. Yeah, the last conversation I had with him, it kicked me out of the system 5 times. As I get to a certain point in the system, and it tells you to select something, when you go to select, it's not there. But nevertheless, we'll get it done. I've already had a follow-up conversation with AKA Trees. They're still on board, they still know what they need to do. They've completely assessed where the vegetation that we need to take out, and they know exactly what trees. As a matter of fact, he said that based on the size of some of the trees that were in place, he could tell when the last thinning of the trees and vegetation occurred. So he knew specifically which ones he would need to mark. And then we provide that information to GDOT. GDOT says, hey, that's great, move forward, get it done. So it's gonna be a pretty swift process. And then lastly, I created a scope of service that I'm gonna get over to the city manager by Friday. And basically, it's for the trail and path. We had talked about taking a look at the vegetation, since we're on vegetation, the vegetation on both sides of the path. What I'd like to see done is to go in 8 feet on both sides and completely clear out and get prepped up so that we can plant some colorful vegetation along the pathway and brighten it up a little bit, and to assist in making our residents feel more comfortable in utilizing the path and not be so afraid because the vegetation is kind of overgrown and creates some hardships and some problems for us. So we're gonna get that over. We seem to think we may have a group of people that have an interest in doing this, and they will be using some local labor force to get in there and help us get this cleaned up.
I know we've got Christmas coming soon, Christmas ornaments.
Christmas ornaments, we've started to pull Christmas ornaments out. Overall, they're not looking too bad. I pulled out, for example, the singing Christmas tree. We're gonna mount that thing hopefully by Friday. And see where we stand on that. And basically, for those that don't know, it's a Christmas tree, but you stand on it, and you could actually have singers stand around this tree. And it's been around with us for quite some time. So we pulled that out. We've assessed the little soldiers and looked at those, and we will hopefully, if everything goes as planned and we don't have any hiccups, by midweek of next week, we should have a better understanding of what we have and what we need, and we're gonna try to rod, Paul, and pay Peter if we do need light bulbs and other things to make sure that the lights are working the way that we need to, but we have started that process.
Any questions for the Public Works Director? Mr. Clark?
Tim only said thank you.
Looks good. Looks good.
Looks really good.
Ms. D?
Did you get, Huey Drive?
Back in Huey Drive? Have you noticed that those lights are back on?
Yeah, they're working.
They are working.
They have changed, did they change out the, what do they call that?
The motion sensors?
Yeah.
I would have to double check to make sure. I know that they changed out the two that were right where the flashing light is just before Huey Drive. There's one there and one in the corner. I don't think they changed the one as you go right over the tracks on Lake Hartman to get down to Huey. But I do know that the one that is facing towards Huey is working
Yeah,
perfectly.
that right up, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Knight?
Thank you for the update, Billy. No question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Tran?
No question.
Perfect, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go on to the next one. Mr. Dang, give us an update on your city billboard and the city app.
So for the city billboard, they sent us a draft of like a 3D sign. They're trying to put the Morrow logo right next to the below the sign, so they could glow at night. They drafted that basically because it's not 5,000 feet away from the other billboard by the highway. We may call that the city billboard versus the highway digital billboard. And Brian is also, Gaylor is also visiting on Thursday to visit the Skylark side to see if it is something that we can probably put over there, the billboard as well. So he's gonna visit us and draw both layouts, and I'll forward that to you guys so that you guys can accept the plans. Also,
Do you have a time for that yet?
as far as
When he's gonna be here?
Friday in the AM, he wants to build the Skylark sign. The other side, he already drew up
Mayor, I just wondered, are you gonna be available? Would you like to meet with him? Because this is gonna be the guy that does all the permitting stuff, and I didn't know if you wanted to speak with him directly.
They might be able to reach me by phone or something like that, if somebody
So
just
maybe
needs
if
to
you're
hear the
standing out.
conversation.
Okay.
I mean, once he walks that, I think it's gonna be self-explanatory for the most part. He's gonna have all the distances, he's gonna know whether that's something to have an interest in. If you got difficulty from there,
Yeah, he's worried about the vegetation because, per the rules is, we can't cut the vegetation until 5 years later.
well, that's the vegetation that's on the state side of the fence. The vegetation that's on our side isn't the same problem.
Okay. So when he
Because we
gets
own it.
something,
Does that make sense?
yeah, he'll give us what he thinks is good, and he'll draw it out. I'll present it to you guys. And for the city
Well,
app.
hold on, because the language of the email, he did say on the Skylark side that because it was a permitted, am I remembering this? And because I just think I just read it earlier today, that he was saying something that through the GDOT permit, they would be able to cut the shrubbery down for 5 years. Now,
On GDOT side.
Yes.
okay, but that's the side between the sign and the interstate.
The fence, the GDOT's fence, whatever that means, and that side. So just the question is how, we'll let him come and take a look at it. If he's
So,
got
and
issues
so
with it.
that needs to be part of maybe what we see is the delineation between what is regulated by that rule he's talking about versus what we can cut because we own it, right?
And then we've already got a cell tower back there, so we know we got some visibility anyway.
But we don't access the cell tower from the city. It's overall, yeah.
I have a question. Are we talking about two signs or one?
In this case, we're looking at both sides of the interchange. We already know about one side, but we own the other side too.
Right.
And there's a cell tower back there.
Right.
So then the question is, if you already have a cell tower, you've already got the access, is there a probability? In other words, is that worth something? If it's not, it's not. But it's certainly worth taking at least a question to say, you know, assess the ability.
Good thing about having it is, you know, the rule is you gotta have it run for 80 seconds, and they're willing to give us 2 slides for each side in exchange, you know, for that little piece of land that they needed for to move people.
The terms we can negotiate once we know.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll talk about that more later.
Okay. And for the city app, we're under the 60 days first phase, so they're gonna wrap it up on December 12th, and they can give us 30 days to play around with the app to see if we like it. But currently, I check back with them every week and they're under development.
And I know, I don't have it on here, but I did see, you know, we anticipate having signs up for the properties that we have either potentially under development or different things. What's our timeline on that?
All the posts are up. So if you drive by Old Town Morrow, you'll see a 4x4 post up already. We're ordering the signs from Lowen Signs. The signs are about $47 and shipping is about $41. So each sign will run us about $90. And once those signs come in, we can screw it on and get it leased.
And then, do we have the Welcome Center on LoopNet yet? It
Yes.
looks like Warren's doing a good job of leasing it, so at least that's something.
Yeah, putting, right now we have Old Town. We have the LC, because we purchased 3 LoopNets, so it's gonna be Old Town, LCI, and the tourist center. Yeah, and then we can rotate. They allow us to rotate it often.
Perfect. Questions? Paul?
No question.
Christine?
And these signs are what?
I'm sorry?
These signs are what?
Basically, they're just giving them the phone numbers and contacts, so they're on the property, just like a listing sign. So you're saying for lease or development opportunity available on properties we have. They're not obviously gonna advertise themselves.
And I gave you guys Sylvia a copy of our logo that we did. They looking to create the vector file, so you guys can glance at it and see which logo you think is a good fit.
Excellent. Questions, Ms. Dean? Any?
About
Don't know, please.
Anything he's presented so far.
logo?
Well, it's a different, I don't know what everybody's seen.
It's remarkably creative.
It's the same thing that you got a copy
It's
of. man.
astonishingly creative.
Excellent. Good to know that it goes back that far. Ms. Tran, any comments for Mr. Dang? She listening? Ms. Knight, any comments?
Comment?
Ms. Knight?
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Oh, she did. She said no comment.
Okay. No, I just was saying, just a remarkably creative logo. No questions. I'll reach out to, Val.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, on item 11, the Rule 85 benefit study, we know we'd already looked at that prior, and obviously the bell curve on that doesn't change anything until like 2036. Where are we?
We're waiting on their
Yeah, they
ordinance.
should have the updated plan by the end of the month, because I told we had to have 2 readings before, you know, it went into effect. The termination date will be December 31st for the program that we have now, and any employee hired January 1, 2021, you know, they
Will be
will
under the
not be
new.
eligible.
Perfect. Okay. Let's just see, because there's probably not gonna have anybody to answer the first one, the second one. You want to talk about your
Business,
garden club? I'm sorry.
Wait, we missed 12.
On the tax bill for the tax commission?
Yeah, just do we, Ezzy has some updates.
Well, when I read it a couple of times, I called and talked to Danielle. And there was questions that she couldn't answer, so I spoke to Mr. Baskin. He was very nice about delinquent tax bills and, you know, if they would be collecting them. Once the 5 phase expire, the ones that we already have, they would in fact be collecting all delinquent taxes, no matter how far they go back.
And then I heard today that you can do online taxes now, right? Is that
yes.
not correct?
It's on the web now.
Yes.
So-
And I did test that out today.
Okay, so we know that we have ways to be able to do that, reduce some time for us. Long-term, the solution is, you know, with Clayton, to be able to make that work.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
So that's the agreement. And what about the tax bill itself? Right, we had some, you know, that we were.
Yeah, with 2020, was that they're working with Clayton County to iron out those issues.
Yeah, so if we had, you know, Chris Pike review it, and there were some, well, as he noticed, the discrepancy in what the billing company, when they set up the bill, and then the tax digest came in from the county, and there weren't a lot of, the value difference wasn't big, but there was a difference, and so we have to ask ourselves why. So the billing company is in conversation with the county, because, you know, there's really no reason why they don't match perfectly, right? So anyway, as soon as we get that resolved,
Correct.
it'll take that resolution before we send out the tax bill.
That's the current tax bill.
That's the correct.
Correct. And there was only like 5 line items that I saw out of maybe 20, but I just wanted someone else to look at it to be sure it was correct and not just me.
Well, it's important for us to send those out, because cash flow matters. Okay.
Okay, now you can jump to whatever item.
Well, because we got,
I have a
okay,
question
finance,
about
I'll just go on to the next one.
business newsletter.
Garden.
Has that been,
Mayor,
the business
Councilman Dean.
newsletter, has that been
Yeah,
completed?
it went out.
Yeah.
The business newsletter, citizens newsletter should have been received
And
today.
I feel like I emailed it to everybody, a PDF file, but maybe not.
They're out.
Dr. Boone, he knows my phone.
Yeah, I
Has
think
it
the business
posted?
newsletter's been out at least a week, at least. The other one just, some of those may have received them either yesterday or today on the regular. And then, you want to talk about your, garden club concept? And we know that the design is still pending, right, Billy?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, Studio AV has we set a meeting up for Friday at 2 o'clock with Ms. Boone, so that we can assess what she already has at hand.
I better be there.
Ma'am?
I said, I better be there. She's gonna get crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be, we're gonna do it on site, so that she can show you the visual effect of what she thinks it needs to look like. And also to make sure that she's headed in the right direction with regards to, creating the roadmap of what you guys would like that garden to look like. So she's definitely on board. I just sent her a text, and she'll be there.
And to add, we're having a garden meeting on Saturday, so if we have, a copy so that the members can see it and anything that, you
I
know.
don't think we're gonna have anything to have a copy of yet, right?
Right, what she'll have is, she'll have somewhat like an image of,
Uh-huh.
here's what would go here, here's what would go there. This is what we recommend we put on this area. She'll have all that, pretty much in some format that'll help folks to visualize what it could potentially look like. Now, more specific detail, she will go back to the drawing board and she will actually start working on what it would specifically look like. Then give you some 3D renderings of this is what the space could potentially look like once it's completely finished. So, but she is excited about meeting with you because she felt that it would help her understand a little bit better the journey that you guys have taken, plus she wants to make sure that she doesn't miss anything that you guys would like to have in the garden.
Are you? Good?
So far, we discussed a shed on the property, didn't
We discussed the shed too.
Girl,
Yeah.
Somewhere in there,
We've got
the sidebar discussions probably need to be happening.
We'll talk about that because we've got some great ideas.
Let's just make sure they all match. I
Yes,
think
sir.
that was the concern.
See,
Um,
the issue is gardeners and non-gardeners. That's the issue.
And fences may not be where everyone expects them to be, that's the next step. A little more structural, but we can work on it from there. But it looks like it's heading in the right direction. Tourist center, public-private partnership, working on that, that's not a problem. I don't anticipate the Old Town Morrow easements or anything, the city attorney
No, we're not
mentioned
mentioning
that.
that.
We do know, we met with the auditors today, the beginning sections. Let's just say that,
We were surprised.
yes, not all is as it appears, but some of the potential answers have already been dealt with, I think is the best way to say that.
We're resolving it.
Yeah, so, well, you know, it is what it is, but like I said, some of the steps we've already taken are headed in the right direction to correct. But it is what it is. All right, Reynolds Road property, yeah, this is one of those where we now realize we're heading in the right direction from, garden concept. And we know we still have a very big building over there, and we're not quite ready for prime time, but let's assume the backside starts to head in the direction and the timeline that we're asking, then the next logical step and may be to really review the basketball court and the fitness section and maybe the rear entrance to the building for the restrooms. We don't go over there and take a huge bite. We go over there and take a concept where we look at it and say, what do you think? Right?
And you know, to kind of chime in on what you're saying, have gone over on a number of occasions. More recently, I went over with burglar and fire protection companies to assess basically what we have in place today and what's there and what we could potentially do.
And was that included, the basketball?
That included all three buildings.
Oh, you gave us separate prices for that.
I got
remember
separate,
seeing that.
that is correct. We got separate prices on burglar and fire alarm with the understanding that, for me, I was thinking possible budgetary items or however mayor and council sees fit with
You
regards
said we had a new fire marshal?
Well, so he won't officially be a fire inspector until January, but we were able to identify somebody within the department, and his last name is Piper. And his first name must be William because he introduced himself as Trey Piper. He's done administrative work in the fire service before, so he's not scared off by the switch from shift to Monday through Friday.
And he's a current employee.
He's a current employee, yes, sir.
Then, rather than just waiting for the certification to catch up, wouldn't it be a good idea to start some of those discussions now, because the project's gonna take longer than that anyway?
I would agree.
Well, at least the idea should be, well, we know at some point Dorothy's gonna remember they need a restroom out there, hopefully before she needs the restroom. But the other part's gonna be related to that fitness center, in terms of what potentially could be in the back. Does that make sense?
That is correct.
And I think some of it is cleanup, obviously, and then some of it is a little bit of design. Somewhere in there, we've got to figure out how we would operate it, right? What's, all on the front side. So if it's 24-hour fitness and everybody's just doing pass key, not saying that's a good idea or not a good idea. And then I know we had some private sector folks who might be interested in leasing some of that lower floor. I want to try to move all of those ideas forward at the same time, to the best of our ability. Now, we know there's a kitchen in that building as well. And does it have a grease trap? Is it functional?
It has a small grease trap. It's an above ground trap, if I'm not mistaken.
Something that the water authority is gonna let us use, or we're
I
gonna?
would have to have some conversations with the water authority to find out specific. They may grandfather it in because it was once a, active pool.
Good
You hadn't
luck.
met the water authority in that capacity. But now, are we talking about the kitchen inside the C-built, the original building?
That,
Is that
The
what
one
you
in the
mean?
front.
Okay.
yeah, that's a C building.
On the front, closest to the dog park?
Because there's also a little, community room in there as well on that front side,
Yeah.
right?
Right, there's a, what I call the back door. It's inside of a shed is a door that leads into a space that's one of the rooms. So if we were to take the shed down, the door would still exist. I call it the back door because when you walk in the shed, you never know it's there until you walk to the back of the shed and, oh, you say, that's a door. You open the door, you're inside the building, so,
Wow.
pretty unique. Somebody had, you know, some creativity.
You're talking about the shed, the
first
one,
one.
oh, the first one
With the ball-
closest
ball
to the
ears
parking
around.
lot?
Yes, ma'am.
Really?
The attached
Yeah.
shed.
No, not that shed.
Yes, it is.
But,
It's
Well, I think
attached.
that's one shed that can go away.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the
that's
one.
kind of what I thought also, so that one will definitely be coming down. The restrooms are in pretty decent shape. The doorways, are not ADA compliant. There would have to be some minor modifications there, I think. Other than that, I think when you look at the bare bones, of the structures, they're very solid. As part of the assessment that I did, I went in and specifically started, examining walls, looking at,
You must not be talking about the restrooms in the gymnasium.
no.
Yeah.
The restrooms in the gymnasium is a horse of a different color, and there's a little bit of work that we need to do there, but it's not anything that we can't, that I don't think that we can't, you know, get under control. But again, if you look at what we have, it's in very, very good shape. It's in better shape than what I anticipated when I looked at it. First time I was like, well, what are we working with here? I didn't really go inside and investigate, but I've had an opportunity to go in and investigate in detail. And got a little bit of work ahead of us, but it's not as bad as I thought.
And the leak in the sanctuary, that was resolved? Or did we just turn the water off?
We turned the water off. Let me go backwards, go forward. We did a number of things. I called out Clayton Water. They did their due diligence to make sure that the meters weren't continuously running and we had a leak somewhere. Then we went back out and we made some minor repairs for free using one of the licensed plumbers.
That we had with
community
community
service.
service?
Then we went back out and double checked it to make sure that we didn't have any additional leaks. Long story short, we have no problems at all. The meters are not even running. And so Clayton wanted to charge us this astronomical bill. We did our due diligence. We got a letter from the licensed plumber saying that we have no leaks on the property. They then decreased that bill considerably, and it looks like we're back to normal. So we're gonna continue to monitor that, but we don't have any leaks at all. Everything seems to be working the way it's supposed to in the buildings. I'm getting over there at least once, maybe twice a week. The doors are all locked, nobody's going in the space. I think we're fine.
How is the designer working out for us so far? Do we really know yet?
For,
In other words, if we take this next level.
oh, yeah,
from a
no, we don't know yet.
Concept design, we know there's some doors that might have to be looked, this building looks like a 1970s, you know, it's gotta have a facelift of some sort.
Right.
So we want something that's cost effective, but obviously the most cost effective is to draw it on paper first, get some ideas. And I got a feeling we might not all agree. on
Well,
that
yeah,
first.
and I feel like once the garden project a little further, we'll know a little bit more about if that's somebody we can move forward with.
Yeah.
Do we still have a tenant in the building?
Yes, the one in the middle. Sure.
In where?
The church that's in the middle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sanctuary is in the middle. Yeah, it's the middle building.
But it's, if we all get a chance to walk through it, take a visual on it, kind of envision maybe what we see as early as we can, so that by the time that part happens, right, it'll go from being a visual to construction, we'll have the other ideas, which will take months, right? And we could be talking this time next year before, you know, something like that could open. But we just need to know, you know, how do we anticipate actually making that work? Because it's gotta be cost effective, but, it could be a really nice visual, and it could be something very functional. We just gotta figure out the hows. And I think that's gonna take a little bit of time, but the design work will matter, and then we'll have to figure out, what does that mean, what does it cost? You know, we got so much money over there, right? And we'll see what happens.
And the great thing about the way the building is designed, the hallways are very long. So if we decide that we don't want to use sections of the building, we could literally wall it off and only use what we want to use, design it the way we want to design it, and just kind of keep it moving in a good direction.
Well, sometimes they've got, you know, internal to those walls, you know, they got like the sliding gates. Because otherwise you're gonna set up issues with your fire system, right, ingress, egress, you know, we gotta come up with ways that make sense, before we start, you know, building exterior doors that.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yes, my thoughts were, get a little bit further along with the garden project, enter into a conversation, do a walkthrough, come back and talk about the costs associated with creating some type of vision of the space, then come back before the city manager and present something that says, this is what I think, or this is what we were thinking, this is where our head is, what do you think? And just kind of keep going.
And I think those keys are in my mailbox, right? So if somebody just wants to walk through that space, you know, take a flashlight with you or something.
And I'll be more
Billy
than
has his own set of keys.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to
Oh,
walk
absolutely.
anyone through that wants to go.
And I think we should just schedule it, you know, come up with a time, walk a few people through it, just, the faster we get our mind around it, and come up with some ideas, I think the better off we're gonna be.
I was gonna ask, is it okay for me to just go ahead and take the sanctuary, and my thoughts were to do ultimate, fine, no, I'm just kidding.
It's like, what is he talking about?
Let's just start with the areas of that, because I think that was gonna be the least expensive. It's gonna have a higher utilization rate on the front side, and you get into that sanctuary, and that's a lot of space, and I don't know if we got.
Well, and honestly, the basketball court was what we had to cut off from the public there. I mean, it was being used all the time, but, you know, they were sort of breaking in to use it, and we didn't have any, you know.
And I think that's gonna be.
We need a camera system.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know,
That's security, common sense.
That's gonna go up here in the next, real quick.
Well, that's outside.
That's outside, but inside.
At some
we're
point,
having-
yeah.
But, you know, it's funny because, I was walking, one of the guys who quoted on the burglar alarm system, and he said, man, this space, the sanctuary is huge because you've got a balcony section up top. I said, well, you know, maybe I can talk to the city manager and just go ahead and open an ultimate gym of some sort where you go in there on Fridays and, you know, the top part becomes a section, it's a VIP section where you can sit and watch people just kind of duke it out on Fridays since COVID's been around and everybody's been kind of pent up. I figured, hey, quick money maker, you might make a few bucks. So
Just depends on who's in the room.
it just, that's it, that's the key. It just depends on who's in the ring.
All right, but it's, just put that in your mind, because
Yes, sir.
it's coming, and we want to make that work.
One other question.
Shoot.
Do we still have a tree?
That tree, please give me until tomorrow morning. I'm coming in tomorrow. I wanna find out.
But, you come to my Veterans Day situation first.
I'm
You
on-
go tomorrow afternoon.
No, I'm coming in early.
Okay.
Well, we do
So
have some
But I'll have an
chain,
answer for you.
we have some chainsaws now.
Well, the person that we hired to do that, Glenn coordinated that, they should have had that tree down. I don't know if it's because of them just getting caught up with something else, but give me until tomorrow morning and I'll text you with something that says, here's where we're at on that.
No problem.
Then moving on to the other one we talked about earlier, was the planning for the dark space. And we know there's a significant amount of electrical in there, and we know that there's still some hanging lights that probably won't be the final lights. But the best way to make that space, you know, at least visible, is if you just have some way to turn a light on. You know, we know the electrical's there, we know the lights are there, it just needs to be daisy chained temporarily together, so you turn the lights on, people can see what it is we're looking
I will,
at. At least the top floor.
are you talking about the top floor dark space or the bottom?
Top floor. I mean, the bottom floor at some point makes sense, but
Okay.
we just don't have the resources, I think, to play on the bottom floor and the top. I think you do the top floor first.
Yes, sir.
We get it in stages.
We'll get right on it.
And so here's what it is. And obviously the place needs to be clean. You know, it hasn't had a real cleaning in, you know, a decade. And then, you know, some ideas. But lights first, and then we'll start to put some people in there and see what we can do to at least make it functional.
If we ever have new one, are we gonna buy the piece of land that is gonna, remember the Indian guy that come like?
Oh, I thought you said-
We never got a final number on that, and.
Yeah, it's that 60-foot issue, remember? Yeah.
But I think we were trying to look at an appraisal, that would.
Jasmine sent me 2 more,
Okay.
so we're gonna get 2 more quotes and then we'll have 3 quotes. The first one estimated at 1,500.
Yeah, and there's, I'm not sure that one's 100% ready for prime time yet until we get a couple better answers. If we get some better answers, then we can, I think that would promote it. Does that make sense? In other words, right now it's nothing more than an idea. You gotta take an idea and turn it into something. And once we've got the answer as to, can we, then I think we can figure it out. Otherwise, we're just wasting everybody's time. But let's work on that. Bond financing, we know that's a legal issue. Meadowbrook property, same thing. Once we ultimately deal with, you have a number of people who have expiring terms on your planning and zoning board. In the very near future, there'll be some recommendations, obviously, for terms. And whatever happens at that point, then we start to actually train the planning and zoning board or show the planning and zoning board around now that we've got about. And that's where we drive around, look at different properties, look at different concepts, see what works here, what doesn't work here in your opinion, in their opinion, and then start to define the strategy. And without the strategy, you can't do much with it. Okay? So that's heading into that direction. And at that point, that's a great corner. We just got to figure out what we can do with it. Same thing will be said for some of the others. Believe it or not,
What?
we ran out of
9
paper.
o'clock and we got to the end of the agenda.
Well, obviously, we need to write some more paper.
Good night, everybody.
This will be historic. It's gonna be good. Okay, any additional questions? Because we're at the, barring none, meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Right on.